Hey, so welcome to the podcast. This is the official episode 1 of Rejected Pilots, with a show in which we have an hour to create some pilots to get rejected. So here we are.
Awesome.
And I am your host, Chad Gloria, and I have my other host here with me.
Josh Lindquist, how's it going?
And our special guest today is Carrie Duvall.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man. So it's good to have you, brother. Okay, yeah. So the one I want to try tonight, let's do D&D players whose game world comes to life.
Nice.
I think there's a lot of meat on that bone. I'm a big fan. So
Nice.
I think so. This one seems kind of the intro to this episode seems relatively obvious. It's going to be them playing D&D and getting trapped in this world, or
Of course.
so. So I guess that's the question. Which version of Jumanji do we want to do?
Yeah.
I was almost thinking of their world that they create in the game becomes alive, and it takes them to realize, oh, we've made these characters that have actually come to life now, and we're controlling things, kind of to see what weird territory that takes us into, you know?
Okay. So they get like doppelgangers of themselves, of like their characters basically that come to life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, I'm into that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Carrie? What are you thinking in terms of the initial premise?
I like that. That's a little bit of like a late 80s, early 90s kind of like those kids movies where like He-Man will pop out of nowhere, and it's not like, hey, I get to live in a world with He-Man. It's like, wow, now He-Man's here with me.
Yeah.
100%. It's those Orion movies where they were broke, and so they couldn't afford to do like the big fantasy world, so they would just be like, hey, we'll pluck one guy and the bad guy, and now they're in New York. Which looks a lot like California.
Yes.
We're like, wow, this is weird. Yeah,
No, totally.
I dig that. I kind of dig that concept where it's like, these characters have kind of taken on a bit of a life of their own.
So so I think the first giant obstacle that comes to mind is how do we get around the DM basically being God and being able to work their way easily through any kind of what do you call it? If there's any kind of obstacle, if you have an active DM, he could just be like, oh, well, that goes away.
What if we have a DM who it's his first time DMing? He's totally new to being a dungeon master, and he doesn't realize that he has become God, not only for these characters, but in the world as well. So he's discovering his powers. He can start manipulating things, and he's like, what is happening? I think having him be a brand new dungeon master will be good for both the audiences and him having no idea of really what he can do and how much he can do.
Well, I think there's like a good Bill and Ted kind of vibe there, where like at the end of the first Bill and Ted, where they're like, you know what we need to do? We need to go back and give ourselves the key later, and like so you could have that with the first time DM, where like he's got a friend of his who's playing a level 1 character who's kind of like backseating him, who's like, and he's just like, why the fuck is this happening? It's like, well, it's because actions have consequences. Come on.
Yeah. Well, see, I like that, but I like that for like the last, like that's kind of the ending of the episode, almost like a morality tale.
Absolutely.
But there's a couple of things that pop to mind because one of the, like I said, the concern I have is when we get to the scene where there's a big dragon and they all go, oh no, and then the DM is like, the dragon dies. So what I'm thinking, one option is what if the DM is antagonistic? If it's kind of like that episode of Community where Pierce, is like being a tool. It's like, imagine a world where that's the DM and he likes that everything is, like maybe, we set up a character who's maybe like, the downtrodden nerdy kid who no one gets along with. And so he's like out for vengeance. Well, or he gets a taste of power and then like it goes to his head and he starts acting crazy. So then the players actually have to like interact with him in that kind of way. Another option is that our POV characters are actually the D&D characters who come to life. And so we don't even interact right away with the people who are doing the D&D game.
Okay.
And so then at the end, it's finally them meeting him and having to be like, hey, everything you've been doing has been really happening,
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, we could have like a montage in there somewhere where we see these players Because if we get introduced to the characters first in the fantasy setting, and then we get introduced to this group of players, how they're a little bit connected, but their fantasy characters are very stoic and heroic and everything. But then them in real life are goofy and weird.
Sure,
That'd be fun. Okay,
Mountain Dew and stuff. So
yes, always Mountain Dew.
Always Mountain Dew and Doritos and Mountain Dew, the official sponsors of
Dungeons and Dragons,
Wizards of the Coast.
Love it.
So I mean, I don't know. So which do either of those ideas stick out? You know, do you guys fancy either of those more? I mean, you can also mix them too. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't have that. Because another challenge we have to figure out too is like what we're talking about so far is kind of a movie. And so we need to figure out how to make this episode 1 of something that's going to go and go and go. If at the end, you know, you have a character who basically realizes the error of his ways and is like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do that anymore, then we're kind of done, you know? So, so now what?
I really like the community angle with the DM being like the uber nerd, and just something trips with this dude where, I don't know, maybe even if this was a season 1 thing where, like, you know, they're all exploring right now that the D&D world is coming to life. But at the end of the episode, he has that taste for power, and he's like, you know what? Screw it. You guys are in my world now. And I think that also sets up, I love that idea, but I think that also, and I also think that sets up, now these people that were playing characters have to team up with their characters who are here and kind of have to learn what these personifications of them mean for their own development.
I think you nailed it. I love that. It's great too because it allows us to go a little different with the pilot and then set up the thing that becomes the loop in the further episodes. So episode 1 can kind of be the movie we've talked about. We could even have all of it. We could have it where maybe episode 1 does focus more on the D&D characters. Then they all finally team up at the end. That was kind of the thing that needed to happen. Is like, we need to get these guys in the same room. They finally get into the same room. But like you said, then we have a heel turn with the DM who's like, oh, ultimate power. And then
it could be kind of, it'd be like a Magneto thing where where you're even like, oh, why are you all picking on the nerd? And then he's like, oh yeah, who's the nerd now?
Exactly right. And so then he moves into the steady villain antagonistic force, in the following episodes, and then you have the kind of hero. I really like your idea of like having the heroes and the it almost reminds me of like Digimon. You've got like
it's kind of got that vibe.
The human protagonists that are hanging out with their fantasy protagonists. So the fantasy protagonists bring to the table the powers that they have, but then the human protagonists bring to the table the knowledge of the world that they're in, so that they can actually hail a taxi, whatever 80s thing we're doing.
And cue comedy. It rolls from there.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so are we I don't think it's right to spend no time with the human characters in the first episode in our pilot. So because we do need to establish, the Mandark character as basically being, downtrodden, but also, you have to. I think the lucky balance to strike is that we understand where he's coming from, but we still condemn what he does.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
You guys have any ideas on?
What if we introduce a scene with him moving into an apartment with a roommate who's like super macho guy, like weightlifter, and the nerd guy's like setting up his Xbox or his PlayStation like console, nice TV, and then the roommate's just giving him a hard time, like, man, why would you be setting that up first? You got to get your bedroom looking all nice for the ladies and stuff. Who brings that kind of, who spends that kind of money on a gaming device? And the nerd's just kind of taking it. And then the roommate has the nerve to be like, can I take a turn playing that? And he's just like, rips his hair out, something that. Just
but we should spitball a little bit on the hook of, okay, so if we are going to have a distinct difference between the DM and the other players, then who also we have to keep in mind are going to be our main protagonist in the future too. So we have to be careful not to make them too douchey.
Yeah.
So what you have to think about then is what that hook is that got them to play. Like if the idea is that they don't normally, but there's something that got them to. I mean, again, this is kind of that Community episode where it was like, we're really doing it so we can get this guy back with his dad, or we're really doing it so that, Fabulous Neil doesn't kill himself. Because it also doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could also just be the guy doesn't necessarily have to be especially downtrodden. He could just be like, he's just, imagine it's the kids from Stranger Things, but then one of them basically becomes God, and then it's like, how fortunate we are that Superman is morally perfect and doesn't let that go to his head.
Dustin's evil now? What's happening?
That could be it. Like maybe it's just maybe it could be that simple. Like everyone starts off seeming relatively likable. They seem relatively innocent. When we're following the fantasy characters in the beginning, and then we intercut with the human characters, you're like, oh, it's just some kids that are harmless, whatever, no big deal. And then you have this big kind of heel turn, and that could even be a bigger twist if we don't maybe set up super hard that the guy is like really extra douchey. I mean, maybe he could be a little bit of a tyrant while they play the game. Yeah. So that could set some stuff up.
You could have him being pretty hard nosed, but I think maybe the hook there is that he thinks that he's going to be able to like fix the world.
Oh, I like that kind of Akira Death Note thing.
Yeah, he's like, all right, cool. This is happening now, and if I'm the one in charge, then things are going to change. And maybe that leads up, and like I'm thinking a season thing, but like maybe the second to last episode is this all kind of like wheels out of his control, like whatever spell book he's doing D&D out of actually gets taken by his big bad evil guy. And
okay. Oh, okay, totally. Yeah.
So it runs out of his control. I like that.
1000%. Okay. Yeah, he sets up a big bad, and then the big bad ends up. Well, dude, that's a thing too. We don't even have to. That doesn't have to be later. I mean, that could even be. I didn't even think of the possibility of that.
Then that puts the DM back on their side.
Exactly, because what we could do is all right. So what we haven't established is where the magic came from. If we do make it a MacGuffin, like you said, like a spell book or something, maybe he's like, ooh, I was digging around in my weird uncle's, basement.
Found this original D&D book from the 80s.
This is the real stuff, and so then he starts doing that. That kicks off our whole adventure of this is why the magic happens. Then what we can do is take the power out of the DM having to be implicitly the one who all the power is coming from. The book is where it comes from, and that whoever basically holds the book can DM. So then what happens is then the bad guy that he creates, the BBFG or whatever, comes and takes that crap from him, and then from then on, that guy's the issue, and then we can kind of keep them all together. That's an option.
I like it.
That could be a fun option, because also I love the amount of crap that the rest of the players could give to the dungeon master. You're like, hey, remember when you said you wanted to fix the world like 2 days ago, and then you immediately got your spell book stolen?
Yeah, real fixed. I also like they could, you wouldn't want to like overdo this joke, but you could definitely have the scenario where like when they run into different like monsters or something, it's like, why did you design it like that? This is impossible. What's wrong with you? Like, what are we supposed to do about this?
Like the one dude who actually knows what he's doing in the game. It's like, what the hell is that? He's like, oh, I homebrewed that. Like, what do you mean you homebrewed that?
And it's like super broken. You're like, what the fuck? Well, that's the thing too. Like, there's so much room for comedy in D&D, because anyone who's actually played D&D knows that it's 90% people just like riffing. Everyone trying to make everyone laugh most of the time. So it's like you could have so many goofy like. Kind of like the game Paranoia, how it's like made to be a joke. You could have a lot of these like, oh, only pencil lead kills this monster, blah blah blah. So I guess in establishing this, what do you call it? Okay, so we've kind of worked out some of the story circle stuff, right? Every day was normal. This is a play group who plays D&D, and then one of them wanted a deepening, D&D experience and got a hold of this magic book, and then from there his great want, desire was to fix the world and have like some agency, and so he goes deeper, gets it turns on him, realizes this is all effed up, and so then he like ends up back at square one again, realizing that my friends and how things were was the best way, but now things have changed, and so now we have to go and defeat this big bad guy.
That's a great arc for the pilot episode right there.
I think it is. I think we kind of knocked out the structure part, so we just kind of have to fill the episode with like what happens.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think one of the big things we have to get into basically is like what kind of campaign were they doing and how would it affect the characters who are now here, and these kind of, because there's a lot of fun stuff we can do basically. I think the bulk of the first half of the episode would be, the heroes find themselves having to go to the lair, but it's blocked by blah, blah, blah. And then there's like some extrapolation of how that, manifests in the real world. I still have kind of a Jumanji idea. I don't know about you guys, but like, the old Jumanji, it was I
like the old Jumanji where it's bleeding into real life, because I keep thinking of that Van Cleef character in the first Jumanji, how how he like ditches his blunderbuss and upgrades to like an assault rifle. Like
yeah, exactly.
I have these thoughts of like these thugs who are like, wait a minute, why are we using rusty swords? Like,
100%.
Or does somebody picking up an aluminum baseball bat be like, oh, this is a better club? Like
100%. Yeah, it's very oh, you're right. Man, we haven't even talked about that. We should get into that, like the classes. Like, yeah, you have like a I mean, okay, let's be honest. Probably the obvious ones would be like a barbarian, a rogue, a wizard. The problem is in real life, or not, I don't know, when you actually play D&D, fighters are very popular.
They are.
Oh yeah.
But they're so ill-defined. I think it would be kind of rough to put one into into the movie. But you do kind of maybe a paladin.
I was about to say paladin because that could be the character who's super like, we got to do it this way.
Well, you need the leader too.
Exactly.
And the barbarian's not, I mean, unless you want to really go He-Man. Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And I like the idea, like you said, the barbarian finds like a sledgehammer, like a Home Depot or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, this is way better than this, big piece of wood I had,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then like rogues are great for like getting in and out of thing. Like maybe they get arrested and the rogue like breaks them out, kind of thing.
I dig that.
So okay, I guess we have to start thinking about before we. Well, I mean, okay, let's say we have those. I'm gonna have to write that down as notes. Let's see what we got. There's a fair amount of choices.
Paladin and rogue are a shoe-in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bard is a great class for comedy and for some honest support, especially if that in particular is the character that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like that being the muscle-headed roommate who's like, what the fuck do you mean? I just sing? Like
okay, you know what? I kind of like that better. I like the idea that we have a group, but there's one guy who's like a super fish out of water. That guy could be super useful to us to be like the POV character for the audience who has not played D&D.
True.
Oh yeah.
So if you ever want to over-explain something or break something down like really, really dummy terms, then you can do that with that character.
Definitely.
Yeah. He's basically the Ice-T out of is it NCIS where Ice-T is always the guy that everybody has to explain things to?
It's Law and Order SVU.
Law and Order SVU. Yeah. That's it.
It's like, you mean to tell me? Yeah, he'll be the you mean to tell me guy.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, we can take psychic damage? What?
Well, hold up. What if we do? Because I think that Barbarian is a very visually like he's a good touchstone for audiences. So what if the wizard instead then is basically like a lich or something, or is like a bad wizard and he's the antagonist guy?
Okay, I like that.
Which is also, this is a pretty traditional D&D, or fantasy trope, is like the warrior type heroes have to go fight the magic guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if that's the campaign too, you could definitely go with kind of the more swords and sorcery type of campaign, the a little bit closer to Conan the Barbarian kind of stuff, where magic is a little bit more rare, and the people that do wield it are usually kind of tyrants. So,
yeah.
That's
makes
a good touchdown for the audience.
Yeah, because then you got the two magic users we have on the good side have like some of the weakest magic in the game. So you've got the paladin who's like, I have to, have the holy connection to be able to get boons every so often. And then you have the bard who has this kind of like, it's hard to feel exactly the distinct things he's doing for the party, but it's like, we all started fighting better when he started singing that stupid song. Oh, there's something we could totally do.
I can see the paladin going into a church and being like, "What is this blasphemy?" And they're like, "No, stop! We don't have time for this."
Oh,
he's
you're
all
totally
freaking
right.
out.
You're right. That's a great gag.
We could have the bard discovers metal, and he's like, "This is the ultimate music."
That's what I was thinking. Right.
In my time, yes.
I was gonna say, what would be like the funniest song for the bard to be singing? It works though.
He discovers reggae, and he is like, "This is the most magical form of music in this reality." And he just embraces it wholeheartedly. Totally redoes his persona.
It has to be like freaking high BPM techno, like.
Well, he's got to be able to perform it is the issue. I was thinking like some kind of goofy pop song that would be so ridiculous to sing over, like if he's singing like, Smooth Criminal or something like that while the guys are fighting. It could be a licensing nightmare, but
yes.
but Well, that's the thing too. We could really play with like the diegetic, non-diegetic music because of that character. So then like there's a fight scene that happens, and then he starts singing "Smooth Criminal," but then it like fades into actual like "Smooth Criminal" playing over it or something like that.
That'd be awesome.
It doesn't have to be that, but that's.
I like the idea of that.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. I like the idea of that character too. Like I like the idea of them all being foils, especially the like if you've got the bard who's paired up with the meathead who's playing with them.
Right.
Like and this bard is like he knows he's the support class, and he's like listen, you don't have to sing to be able to inspire people. Like you just need to support your allies, like some sort of like weird motivational speech, and then he busts into Smooth Criminal.
Right. Oh man, we could write little arcs into everyone too. That would actually be kind of fun. So like, okay, now bear with me on this. Imagine you've got like this, like the football player, and he's because at first I was thinking it would make sense for that guy to be like the barbarian, but like you said, if he ends up being the bard, if we had like a jock football player, and he's the controlling the bard character, it would be really fun if like he's not buying into it and he's having a really hard time role playing, but when he does like get pushed finally far enough, the thing that ties up his arc is that he starts giving one of like the football type speeches he would have given like during halftime. Yes. And then it like really works because it's actually magical because he's a bard. Like that could be a really fun character, like you said, if the players are the foil to their characters, the characters could be a way for them to role play into their own arc being completed. So whatever weakness you have, like maybe the player who needs to learn how to be brave is the barbarian, who then has to like be brave, and it like pays off, and like teaches them to be brave.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, you're getting that power fantasy, like the like they're actually learning from.
Yeah. That could be fun. So I mean, yeah. So I like that kind of idea, and then maybe later, now that he has his renewed confidence, the bard character then sings like, and it's like, well, what do I sing? And it's like, whatever and it's like, sing what you know. It's like, well, I know this big pop song, I know,
bust into some Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm thinking. Right, just shake it off.
Yeah, shake it off as they're fighting people in slow motion. Right. I love it.
I think that would be freaking hilarious. I think that would actually be quite great. I think that'd be no BS funny. Okay, so let's workshop some of those other characters.
Okay, well, the paladin, what do we want to do for the player doing the paladin?
That is a tough one, because the paladin is...
Because he can be humorous himself just with his, devotion to a deity right there. So I'm trying to think what kind of... I mean, not to be a foil of them, but the person playing them could kind of be that way in real life, where they're a little bit like dorky and like super kind of rigid by the rules, or like...
Right.
Trying to think like
what I'm trying to think is I want to reward them for going against their nature. And so, the cowardly character becomes, or maybe, what, it would actually be fun for the barbarian instead. You know how there's people who are like, they're like 6'4", so they develop this, like, they become very, very meek because they're so worried about like getting in the way and like, being intimidating to people, and they don't want to scare anyone. So that over years and years and years and years of trying to like be meeker and meeker and meeker, they just become like way too soft spoken to where like everyone walks over them. Yeah. If you had a character like that play the barbarian, then learning to be like assertive could be the thing. And so it's not necessarily like just the cowardly lion. It could be that like I need to learn to like, I am this big guy who can handle blah, blah, blah. Maybe we even have that with like the wizard who like tries to like just walk past him like, oh, you're just a coward, get out of here. And he finally is like, no, I will stand up, to you, kind of thing.
I like that.
Because that can also play back into like, we can have, I don't know how much we want to get into it. Maybe in further episodes, you would get into like his home life or something, or maybe like his school life or something. So he gets to take that energy with him to then like, be in a better position, in his social life anyway. Paladin's tough, man, because rogue's kind of,
What if it's like kind of like a guy who's like he acts like he's like super like military cool guy, but he's just like a reservist.
That's fair. Or he like wanted to, but like couldn't join, and so he like
that'd be fun. So he still has
like
all
this
like
chip on his shoulder,
Yeah, super high speed military guy, but he's just not. That could be fun for the paladin.
I mean, there's a lot.
Teaches him about like true devotion to one's values instead of being like bravado or trying to like assert himself too much. I like that.
Okay, I do like that.
I wasn't on board at first, but yeah, that's
I wasn't
dig
either.
that.
He won me over. I
He,
wasn't either.
Me and Carrie are both ex-army, so we had to.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to punch down was the thing, and so I like the idea that he never actually did join at all. So it's like he has to learn to like really be about it, and like you said, like kind of figure the code thing out, or maybe even like him. This could be an addition. It's like he's got an issue with I don't want to say like an authority issue, but he's got a hard time like sometimes the best maneuver is not the maverick maneuver. It's just to do the thing that you're supposed to do. And so in this situation, it's like this is a good way for his character to figure that out. Because part of what we can do with this that would be fun is because the players don't understand these things in the beginning, in Act 1, they're like misplaying their characters. And so they're not getting the most out of their characters because they're not actually playing to their strengths. When they figure those things out in Act 3 is when that ties in together for these characters. And now they're actually starting to like, kick ass because they're banging on all cylinders. You got a bard who's afraid of being nerdy, so he doesn't sing, so he's not using his powers, so everyone sucks.
There you go.
Oh no, like I love that. I love that concept because I'm sitting here thinking like the kids that would play things that are outside of their comfort zone, so they can like safely role play that in a different environment.
Yeah.
The kid who's kind of a reflexive rule follower, like a little bit of the teacher's pet, like that's the kid who'd be the rogue.
You're right. Like, I was having the hardest time with rogue. I think you're totally right.
Yeah, because because one way or another, that's going to be the kid that's like, yeah, I want to push it where it's safe, where I know that I can just kind of get this out of my system. And like, I love the idea of that character, like kind of having a breakdown, like pairing up with the rogue and be like, I don't do this kind of thing. Like I can't do this kind of thing. Yes. The whole reason that I made you is because like just that kind of jam.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That'll be a lot of fun. We got to figure out. So all right. So what are we thinking? I'm thinking we spend time with both of them individually in Act 1, and then Act 2, they finally meet. Or we don't even have to do it like that. So what we could do is the end of the episode could be the bad guy getting a hold of the spell book, and then that just is like the cliffhanger that kicks us into what becomes the real meat of the show. At first I was thinking that could happen earlier.
The final scene of the pilot could be the characters looking at their players and being like, are those people controlling us? And it just kind of ends there. Like that could be the end of the first episode, Well,
that's actually something we have to figure out. We have to figure out once so that's why I think my knee jerk is that it wouldn't be as compelling if the players are continuing to control the characters. So I think what we need is what I'm thinking is that in Act 1 you have the players and they are controlling the characters and they're creating the characters basically while they're in their world. But when they come to into our world, which is probably like the first commercial break or something, when they come into our world, now they're autonomous. So everything that the other players have like instilled into them has already been instilled, but now we have two separate acting players.
Well, that's good because we can have kind of the first act of the episode be character creation, like you said. Each player's kind of we have a few scenes of them interacting at the table to show their character a little bit, and then they're talking about here's my cool paladin, and we're getting flash cuts to the person in the fantasy world, and then the DM's like, well, these are great. Let me just set up your villain, and he's like kind of doing 100%. A little intro segment, and he reads a spell out of the book, and that's when the magic starts. So,
okay. So now we need that moment, right? We need the moment when the characters come into the world. It's like something happens. There's like a Terminator type vortex opens or something. Someone drops an apple, and then like it rolls up to a foot, and then you look up. Oh my god, it's a barbarian.
You could have a drawing in the book of like this, that big villain lich character. And then we see them, looking the same in real life. That could be fun.
That actually is cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's actually a pretty neat idea. You could do that multiple times. You could have kind of these like interstitials or something like that are kind of like these drawn, versions of things. But then like the drawn version like fades into the actual like, oh, there it is. But it's the corner store instead of the lair or something, whatever. I guess there would obviously be kind of like Jumanji. There would be like hijinks that would happen because of these guys coming back. Maybe like dude, what if they're like chasing a monster or something like that? So then the monster comes and the hero, and so it starts like messing the city up because we got to have that. I guess we also have to decide if we probably have to do kind of the like, no one knows that these things are around, and so the players are constantly like, oh, that was just a bear or something, like I'll be right back, I gotta go behind the house and check something.
To pull from actual D&D, they could be fighting like shadows or ghosts. That could be something that where it wouldn't attract national attention and kind of break the world they're in. That's something that they're having to individually fight, maybe.
What are those cat things that teleport?
Like blink dogs and blink cats.
Yeah, they got a different name for it. It doesn't matter, but it's displacer beast. That's what I'm thinking of. You get what I mean. That could be the kind of thing where it's like, I swear to God, there was just a thing right here, but then it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you
you're crazy.
Kind of you could really pull kind of that like the only person who would know, like, all right, cool. Well, dragons like to hide in caves. Like, what's the closest thing to a cave? And the kids would be like, well, what about the abandoned shopping mall on the outside of town?
Or the old sewer system or something like that, Yeah, I like that a lot. That's really good. You're right. And that's the thing too. You would have like the characters have a well-rounded knowledge base for what they should know in the game, but because the players, like, we've read all the books, we have like a way more godlike knowledge of that world than they do. So that could be another boon that the players actually bring to the table, is like, oh no, I know, like, I know stat blocks and things like that you guys don't know. So I like that. Like you said, it's like I really like that. I think that's perfect. So like after your first commercial break, the monster thing has been established. The heroes are here now in this crazy world. We have like the fish out of water jokes, but we also have we have to go hunt down the beast before it kills everybody. And when they meet with the players, probably after like the second commercial break, that's when they're like, you have that character who's like, oh, well, like you said, even like I don't know if we want to kick straight to dragon. But I like something like that though. Yeah. I think that's like a season finale kind of thing. But yeah, what if there was, well, you know what? We can also this is an opportunity to tie the monster into the main villain too. It could be something that the villain like summoned.
Yeah.
Leaning
back towards like some of the demon classes or ghosts and stuff like that. Because then it has that supernatural feel that it's not, if a dragon was going down the middle of the city, everyone would lose their minds.
Yeah, exactly.
Some smaller scale things that are still evil and hard for the players to fight, that could be cool.
Oh, yeah. What if it's something chaotic, like a bunch of little things, like, again, like the monkeys from Jumanji? So what if it's like a bunch of little devils or something?
Yeah.
And then like you say, you have one of the characters who has the, like, the idea of like, oh, devils, are attracted to this kind of thing, or they do this kind of thing. Maybe there's like an event happening. What if it's like there's like a festival or something happening, and they can kind of like blend in almost.
That's a fun montage there. Them getting regular clothes for the heroes to put on,
Right. Or vice versa. What if it's like, we could totally do just like it's Halloween kind of thing too.
Ooh, that's true.
Oh yeah.
It's a little convenient.
Especially if the barbarian is like this big female half-orc. Like,
oh, I didn't think about that. You're right. It could be different races. Yeah.
Like I could see Gina Carano being like this big half-orc like barbarian who puts a hand on this big 6'4" guy's shoulder and it's like
100%.
You just need to be you.
Yes, I love it.
100%. I could absolutely that's awesome. I could really see
Fantastic.
That. Yeah, no, I do love that. There's also just like there's the obvious scene where like they go into a place and someone turns around shocked at first and then it's like, oh my god, your costumes are awesome.
Yes.
Oh, what if it's not Halloween? What if it's like a LARPing thing or something like that?
Oh, that could be fun.
Or some kind of like wizards convention or something that would make, or even just like a con. There's just any kind of con.
Yeah,
I like a con. I like that a con happens at some point.
Yeah.
Like
it's less tired of a trope.
Yeah.
And it feels a little less convenient because there's lots of cons that happen all throughout the year, but there's only one Halloween.
True.
What if it was the wrong con?
That would be kind of funny.
It was
a Star
like
Trek convention.
Yeah.
That'd be great. They just show up and they're just like, "You're looking for the place across the street." Okay, thank you.
Live long.
Like that's August, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Wrong convention center.
But it also works though because like almost anytime any convention happens, there's someone who's normally like, if they have something really dope, they're like, I don't care, I'm just showing up to everything wearing this. So it's like,
Yeah.
and then in theory with our we, you know what we should probably talk about someday is we should maybe part of the show in the beginning should be figuring out like what our budget is.
Ooh, that's fun
Yeah.
too. Yeah, because it'd be fun to have like a couple of options, and like we have to like roll a die or something like that, and it's like, oh, you only got this much, so
Ooh, that'd be a solid constraint. I like that.
That could be kind of fun, yeah, and a little random too. So sometimes you get like a lot of money for like a really simple show. You're like, I don't know.
All right, let's take the special effects up.
We have $10 million for Cowboys from the Future pilot. Okay.
That was almost the one I was gonna do. I was totally almost gonna do Cowboys from the Future, but I was
That's
like,
a fun one.
I was like, it's very Trigun. I don't know. Maybe we could do some stuff. But this one really made the imagination go. Okay, so let's think about the players. Okay, so I think that's kind of what we have to do, right? Is that we have to have it so that at the third act, the heroes are already heroes, but the players all become heroes via overcoming, their moral, issue that they had. So you kind of need, basically, you can probably do them all like in the same scene. It's like each of them has to like one, rapid fire, like you got to do this thing, and then you got to do this thing, and like, oh, but I can't. But they all realize by doing the thing, and so all of that. So that's what has to happen is that the success is them beating the devils, and they finally capture them all, and they all complete their little character arcs along the way of beating. This is kind of the ending of It, right? Like the kids learn that, like, okay, like I need to not be scared anymore, and I'm gonna hit them with the slingshot or whatever, and my inhaler now I'm using as a weapon kind of thing. This is like that moment in It, but then it's okay, great, here's your your victory, but immediately followed by, oh crap, the bad guy got a hold of the book.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Okay.
And then
I love that.
And then cut to credit.
I dig it.
Okay, so I think let's go back over what we got real fast. So we establish our players, yes. And each of them have very specific character quirks, and they have all rolled up characters that are relatively antithetical to their type. It could even be fun too. We could even have this is a possibility. We could have the DM maybe like rolled up the characters for them and divvied them out almost to like teach them a lesson. I'm not married to that, but I was just thinking, because it's like, why would everybody choose to be a foil character? Like it would be random that everyone chose to.
I think it kind of works where the paladin is where, for that character who's kind of always kind of like, he's trying to like elevate himself to be part of a code, but he's kind of doing it in a more showboaty way.
Yeah.
That's his idea of how he thinks he is, and then
that's true.
By meeting that character, he realizes who he isn't and how he can get there.
Yeah,
And then for the rogue, kind of playing out that fantasy of not being a rule follower when they are in real life. That makes sense.
Okay, you know what? You're right.
That.
If you're right. If we can put positive spins on it so that these are like fantasy fulfillments for them, then you're right. Then that does make a lot more sense. Same thing with the guy who's too meek wanting to role play as a guy who's not meek. You're 100% right. And then that leaves us with the bard, who maybe the bard is just like, again, you have like one of the kids is like the funny kid, and so he thought it would be like, oh well, we always joke about like, if you made like a barbarian or a half orc bard, like is this some kind of like race that really doesn't fit with it? But that could work where the kid's doing it kind of like as a joke or something, but he actually like wants to. No. Remember we said we wanted the character who was the one fish out of water, doesn't play ever. Yes. So maybe he's like the rogue's boyfriend.
Oh, there you go.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So he's kind of been pulled into this, and then he can also be the character who's like, "What have you guys got me into?" Like, my mom warned me in the '80s that this would happen if I played D&D, and I play it one time.
I knew it.
The first time I play.
Because that'd be great. Perfect. Because right at the beginning, you've got their characters, and essentially they start their first encounter.
Yep.
Which is going to be the big evil lich sends a bunch of goblins at them.
Uh-huh.
The big evil lich reads the spell, and all of a sudden that kind of like crosses dimensions here, and all of a sudden a bunch of goblins rush into the kitchen where they're playing D&D, and
100%.
there's that lich hovering over top of the DM.
Okay, what if we hold on that? So what if we have goblins appear. Oh shit, it's pandemonium. Everyone's trying to figure out how to get the goblins out of the house. Right, yay, we just succeeded. Goblins out of the house. Oh crap, goblins out of the house. Now we need to go and deal with the goblins. And then we can have, like, maybe they leave the house or something, and then walks into frame the Lich.
Oh, that'd be great.
I like that.
Because the book would be there. Like, there's no way the DM would take the book with him to go get goblins.
Perfect.
Unless we do something like that where he's thinking, because if we establish earlier, like, you know, in the beginning, him talking to someone like, hey, look what I found, then it could be kind of like, you know, he runs out, oh crap, I'm gonna grab the book, like, it's, you know, they came from this, obviously, like, maybe there's something in here.
That's smart too, yeah.
And then that could leave us at the end where the Lich gets the book at the end because, like, you know, something happens, he gets knocked over, he drops it or whatever, and then he picks it up, but, like, you know, we're all too busy celebrating because we got the goblins finally. And then, you know, obviously the players have also the primary concern of, like, got to make sure no one else sees these goblins or knows that there's goblins. And goblins are great because they also could be very sneaky.
Yeah.
You know, they're hiding behind cupboards and stuff. You know, I'm kind of thinking like Jim Henson, like Labyrinth goblins, you know?
Yeah.
I think that could be a
That's
lot
how
of
they
fun.
come out in real life. Sneaky.
I can totally get into that. And, you know, impossible hiding places and stuff. You know, he's way too big, but he somehow can hide behind a candlestick kind of thing. You know,
There's goblins in the vents. Oh no!
Yeah, 100%, right. Well, and then also them having to do the thing of, like, trying to rein in the heroes who are acting, you know, way too, you know, bravado in front of all these, like, people. Like, oh, no, don't
Let's
mind
burn
him.
down the building. No,
Yeah,
no,
that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
They get stopped by, like, a security guard, and, like, the barbarian, like, wants to kill him, and it's like, no, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of fish out of water gags you can kind of work into those. I mean, it writes itself. It's kind of like...
I thought that was the funnest part of the first Thor movie, was the fish out of water stuff. That was, like, the best part of it, the whole thing. Him, you know, another, and he breaks the coffee mug.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I love
they
that.
Did a good, they did a funny, he wasn't in, I think, Civil War, and so they did, like, a Funny or Die or something sketch where it was a lot of that kind of stuff. It's like him and his roommate, and he's like, hey, if you guys need me, I'm here, like, you can give me a call. Like,
Sending emails. Send a raven.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, no, I'm here, I'm ready.
We gotta have a scene with the rogue character is trying to, like, tame a wild, like, raven from, like, you know, near, like, a trash can or something, and it's this raven won't comply with me, and they're like, stop messing with the birds, man.
I can't read its mind, I don't know. So that's the thing too, right? So we got if the goblins are hiding and, like, locking themselves away or getting into places that are hard for them to get to, that's where our rogue pops in, and the rogue is the one who can start letting them into places and pick locks and stuff like that.
Nice.
Totally. Well, you could also have it too where, like, I think that ending scene, that big culmination scene, is pretty much it can't be the hero. The heroes need to assist the players getting to success, but they can't also win everything for them, because then it's just they've, like, done too much, I think. So so it needs to be the players who take on the positive traits of their heroes. You know, at the ending, and then if there's, like, 4 players and 4 goblins, then, like, each of them catches a goblin, you know, from completing their little arc in, like, the end of, you know, the 3rd act or so.
I was thinking that maybe the paladin is able to make a spell to, like, you know, send them back to the fantasy world. So as they find things, they can send them back instead. Because for some of the characters, or some of the players, it feel too dark to have them, like, killing a goblin in the real world, you know?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking capture. I agree. I think for the tone that we've established so far, yes, I think this is a very, like, G-rated thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, so let's think about, what if there's, like, a portal, and then, like, back to back, they, like, grab the goblins and get them in there. They're in, you know. We could also work in we could establish the convention a little better by having it be, like, maybe they already were planning to go. And so the players are already, like, stoked about it. Maybe they, like, want to meet someone. So then, like, you know, somebody. Ryan
Joe
Reynolds
Manganiello's going to be there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, there you go. Totally. Joe's going to be there. He's going to be there with the Spell Slingers people or something, you know? So I really want to go meet him. So then, like, that is, like, the area where the thing happens, and then they have to, and maybe even, like, Joe is witness to it, but nobody else, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's kind of like, hey, don't tell anybody, you know, and no one will believe you kind of thing.
That'd be fun.
Could be, just like that could be like a fun throwaway thing.
Fun cameo.
That'd be a great cameo.
What if the DM is able to summon the portal? That way, because I feel like the players have a lot of connection with their characters.
Totally.
So they're kind of along with the plot. I was trying to think how the DM wouldn't be excluded as a throwaway
I
character.
love that. Yeah.
Since we've kind of moved away from them being an antagonist, so
Yeah.
having them have the unique ability to like cast a spell to like basically put characters back in the book, back in the fantasy world.
100%.
That could give them a reason to stay along, you know.
Well, and we need the payoff of him taking the book with him.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that really helps there. Yeah, absolutely. Then he gets to, at the end, you know, he finally, I found the page, I found it, like, here it is, I got it, you know, pajamas, grandmas, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then Expecto Patronus, the portal opens up. Yeah, we just, you know, grabbed all the, you know, the goblins. You know, yeah. I think that's the way to do it for sure. Yeah, maybe there's...
Especially if he's driving the players as opposed to the characters, like he could, like he's sitting there, is like, and his buddy's like, "What would a paladin do?" And he's like, "Shield of Faith," and then like the goblin just like runs up and can like bounce off.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's
I like that. That could take us into a place where we do something fun, where like maybe when the characters do complete their arc, they actually do get like some kind of imbued, you know, magical ability. It doesn't have to be anything insane, but yeah, like maybe when the
meathead guy's like, did I just gain XP? I feel like different.
Exactly,
I feel stronger.
That could be kind of fun, yeah. Yeah, totally. And then yeah, from then on we kind of have the Digimon thing, where it's kind of the relationship, and then, you know, them having to, you could even also, I mean, this is also depends on how long we have. If it's a half an hour, I don't know if we have time for all this, but you know, there's the obvious scene of like, oh, I have some friends coming over, mom and dad, like they're hiding in the room kind of thing. I mean, that's the thing. I guess we also have to decide how old these people are.
That's what I was thinking, either high school or college age.
I'm into older. That can work. I think it can work with almost anything, but yeah, we could do, if you do college age, you can avoid the mom stuff. And I'll cut down some.
But you can also, if we decide to have it, we could have a character who lives at home still, and it would kind of fit, true. You know. So
that is true. That's true.
If we find some comedy gold there, we could keep it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If you have young, well, yeah, like you said, just
even mid-20s, some people
that's
go
true.
back
that's
to live at home after college. So,
Well, now I'm imagining like Sam Witwicky from like Transformers 2 or whatever. He's like still with his parents. Like, okay, I'm with that. I can go with that. Okay, yeah. So I mean, I guess it's just, let's do a once over and try to refine a little more. All right. Well, I guess one more thing is, how does he come upon this book? We need the kid buys Gizmo, you know.
I was thinking, what if, not to set it at too dark of a tone, but like his grandfather just passed away, and so he's going through stuff in the attic, and he finds this, and you know, that could be the opening scene, is just him in the attic, you know, looking through Grandpa's stuff, you know, looking a little sad, and he finds the book and goes,
Grandpa was
cool.
into D&D.
Yeah, and then he gathers his friends and is like, hey guys, so like, I've always wanted to try D&D and I never have. I found a book that my grandpa had, and you know, we should try it out. Totally. And then everyone's like, okay, we've heard of this, or like maybe someone else has played it once or twice, and then...
Well, you're right. That could even be the impetus of them playing the game this time anyway. I think you're 100% right. Well, I think we should do that. This is like a steady playing group, but it's like the rogue's boyfriend is the oddball.
Okay.
And so then we can have it where we don't have to bring everything to a halt for everybody to have to figure out what's going on all the time. But if you do want to have something that you think would be, because there's plenty of stuff that we can brush over and be like, the audience doesn't need to know the ins and outs of blah, blah, blah. So we can move forward. But when we do want to explain something, the, you know, meathead character is the one to be like, what's his face? Ice-T.
Hang on. What's going on here?
Now you telling me.
So there's this could be you know, I think I found my grandpa's old campaign book.
Right.
From back in the 60s, because he was Gary Gygax's roommate or something.
Yeah.
And like, we've already been playing for a while. Do you guys want to make this part of the mission? Like, make this
or what if it's like a one shot?
Yeah, exactly. Here's our one shot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We'll just see what this book is like. It's probably weird and outdated. It's going to be crazy. We'll have to figure it out as we go. We'll just do like a fun one shot, no big deal. And then it was a big deal.
I like that.
Okay. So yeah, okay, I love that. I love this. This is great. Okay, so that's basically like our opener, and then we get into, they start playing, which is them going around the table, and they're all saying their names and, you know, describing their characters. I like what Josh said, that when that happens, we can intercut with them actually like in the fantasy world. And then we get into, you know, Mandark basically explaining the Lichvit character. Yes. And then we have, you know, time skip or whatever. Oh, our heroes find themselves in the labyrinth of whatever, and they run into, you know, the Lich, and the Lich is like, oh, but can you handle these goblins? And which is also funny because like such a level 0 kind of, you know.
Right.
Yep.
But you know,
when you put it in the real world, suddenly it's like, all right,
it's a problem.
10 goblins.
I would have a hard
World's
time
about
with
to
like
end.
feral cats, let alone
Right.
freaking goblins, any goblins.
Yeah.
So it's like, ooh, but these goblins, and so then it's like, oh, okay, that's established. So then, maybe like that happens. We can kind of do the Jumanji thing where it's like, did you guys hear that? It's like, oh, over in the bathroom. Like, is anyone else here? Like, no, we're alone. Whatever. I don't know.
Open the bathroom door. There's 2 goblins just trying to figure out the toilet.
Yeah, exactly, right. You get, yeah, exactly that kind of thing. So now it's like, oh, hijinks, pandemonium, holy crap, there's goblins. We have to get them out of the house. Then they get them out of the house. But oh wait, now there's like, we need to, you know, be responsible for these goblins. We need to do something about this. And then we have like, you know, Lich guy walks into frame, and that's probably like commercial break 1.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe opening from commercial break is our hero characters have now shown up into the world. They're close by, but in a totally different kind of peril, which is the like, you know, what are we doing here? Yeah, exactly, right.
What strange land have we been transported to?
Mm-hmm. Maybe they like. Well, I guess also like, where's this happening? If we do like a New Yorkie kind of thing, then you can have it where like they show up and they're in like an alleyway and someone's getting mugged, and so like, you know, we're focusing on the mugging, and then like a hand grabs the guy's shoulder and turns around. There's a huge barbarian there or something like that. You know, that could be kind of your cute cliche kind of intro thing. So then maybe they're like, oh, that Lich, he must have sent us to another realm.
Yeah.
You know,
this is a strange realm. They're looking up at the buildings, you know, and yeah, okay, I like that.
And then like, oh, they have, you know, these you know, horses without, you know, legs, and you know, that kind of all that crap.
Strange mechanical horses that roll around.
What strange clothes do you wear, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we can have it where they have to go. Oh, here we go. This is what gets us to the con, is that they maybe there's like. Maybe the Lich isn't even in that universe. He could be not original. It could be like an actual, you know, I don't know. There's a couple D&D characters who like are actual, you know, like they're established. They're all over the place. So he could be a character like that. What's that?
Yeah, he's Vecna or something.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. And so he, so then they actually see like a poster or something of him at the convention center. So that's what like guides them to the convention center. Oh, he's gone there. That must be like his lair or something. Look, he's put up, you know, images of himself. You know, what a monster.
So they're walking through the con without their players there. I like that.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Right.
Like, so they'll see someone in like, you know, dressed as like an orc or something, and they'll be like trying to speak in Orcish to him, and the guy's like,
exactly, right.
Pulls out a hot dog, like, just leave me alone, you know?
Yep. And so then it's as easy as the goblins randomly run to there too. You know, the kids are working their way trying to find these goblins. Oh crap, I saw one. run. And then eventually
they see their master there in a poster or something, and they're like, our master must be there. Maybe. Let's run.
Mm-hmm,
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be exactly the same thing. Yeah. There's basically a beacon, you know, around this location that guides everyone to there for whatever reasons, and our players are the only ones out of the loop, but they're just like following along. And you could, I don't know if you need this, but you could have one of the characters be like, oh, they must, you know, think because of blah blah blah. Because at this point, too,
together as they're going to the con, because they're like, well, these goblins out here, but these were really expensive tickets. Like, we need to at least go to the con and see Joe Manganiello, and then we can save the world. Figure this out. First, we got to go, and then everything collides there.
Or maybe it's just the concern of like, oh crap, we're going to the convention tomorrow or whatever, and I don't want these goblins to ruin the convention and like shut everything down. So we have to go and stop these goblins from, you know, hurting Joe Manganiello.
Yes, we have to protect him.
Yeah, at all costs. 100%. Okay, so then they get there. So now, what is the actual meeting? What happens? You know.
Well, if it's in like a big convention center, they could like go to like an abandoned part of the hotel or the convention center, and that's where the players are like, we've cornered the goblins, and that's when the hero characters come in and are just like taking out these goblins. Maybe they could kill the goblins then.
Well, maybe it's the first interaction, maybe it's the first conflict, but the goblins get away. So it's kind of like, you have your like, oh, the whole point of this episode is we have to go stop this thing. So we have to run into it X amount of times before is actually the final time.
Yeah, because then the players are like, that's our character. That's
exactly.
That's
and
just
then they
how
get that
I envisioned
moment.
him. How weird. And then it's, hey, we made you up. The Paladin's
so now
like,
they're both stronger together because the players don't have the ability to maneuver in this world. Like we could have them run into issues multiple times. Maybe the players, the characters have already had to run from like security.
Yeah.
And so these players can help the characters blend in and survive in this world, but the characters have the actual like tools to smoke up goblins.
Yes.
And later on the Lich. And so that's like the value that they're like I said, they're stronger together now, right? Yeah. So so they run into the goblins, they try to take him out, but they get away. But then now it's the who are you, oh my god, it's you, blah 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 kind of thing. Yeah. So we need to also be making sure that we're hitting hard. Okay, so here's the thing, right? They can't beat the goblins yet because they haven't learned their lessons. And so they try to do things the wrong way. So maybe they try to, what we could even establish too? We could establish this earlier. We could have, when they have the D&D campaign and they're controlling their characters and they're trying to take out the goblins the first time, they all fuck it up because all of them are like, oh, you got to do blah, blah, blah. And none of them want to play their character the way that they're supposed to. They're all playing like the opposite, foily way.
They're all going kind of Maverick. Like instead of playing how your character would play, you're playing how you would play.
Exactly, right. Because we've already established that they're all foils and they're not doing it right.
Perfect.
Exactly. So the DM's just kind of taking him to town with a bunch of goblins, and he's just like, seriously, guys? Like,
quarter CR goblins.
This is 10 goblins. Like, they shouldn't be kicking your ass.
They shouldn't be kicking your ass, but they are because it's like the barbarian's being timid and doesn't want to go into rage, and the rogue is, not, picking locks and stuff because, she's, because she's, well, I don't want to break anything, and like, or I have to ask the person nicely. I can't steal anything. It's like, it's what rogues do. Totally. So we can basically have another nod to that happening again. And they mess up. And so then when we get into them going, I see now I'm kind of at a wall though, because we have to have them run into the goblins again. So what's different the second time that they hit the goblins?
Well, how about part of the MacGuffin is that none of the characters' powers are working outside of outside of the radius of their players.
I like that.
I do. I really
they
like that.
have to be together. That's really good.
I do really like that. I really like
that. They pop up on a city street and they're working. Like they pop up right outside the apartment that these guys are playing D&D in, and they can use their powers all of a sudden. But they wander off, and all of a sudden they can't use that. They can't use it anymore until they link up again.
Also, what if the characters? What if they actually suffer the same problem that the players do because the players are the ones who design them, and so they team up together and kind of like they couldn't convince themselves individually, the player or the character, but then together they got to see and then kind of like worked, and they both overcame and grew. Then that also gives us something more to do with the actual characters too.
That makes sense.
Instead of the players being the only ones who have arcs, they basically all have the same arc, as in little 2Z groups or whatever. So that's like both of them realize like, oh yeah, we got to do blah blah blah. This is like what rogues do. We got to do the barbarian thing. This is what barbarians do. And so then when we get to that third act and they run into them again, they now have. So what we have to do then is have other kinds of obstacles in between them and the goblins, and through going through those obstacles is when they learn, what they need to be doing.
Yeah,
I do kind of like the characters having their own kind of separate arcs. Like the paladin could learn to be like less stringent on his,
you're right. It could be the opposite.
Yeah, the rogue could learn to be a little bit like, okay, I don't always have to be doing criminal stuff. And
well, you're right. It could be the exact opposites. Yeah.
The barbarian learns how to use a cell phone, and he's like, I want to become a data scientist. And they're like, whoa.
Or he just learns that smashing everything isn't always the answer.
Right.
There's a situation where like, it's better to just open the door than to kick it in or something like that. Exactly. Yeah, totally right. And so, okay, you're right. And that fits thematically better too. So you're right. So we have
that's more of a season thing. So I think if we focus on the player arcs for the first episode, we get into the character arcs further on.
So then basically they kind of like, or maybe they just get a really good understanding of why it's not coming together. So we have that moment where like the DM or someone like kind of has the, oh no, this is our bard, this is what we do. We have that moment where the bard jock player character is the one who's like, okay guys, we gotta pull this together, you know, like we run into these stupid goblins twice and it didn't work, and you know what, you need to learn to blah blah blah, you need to learn to blah blah blah, and then the magic starts happening, and then it actually, you know, and everyone gets pumped up, and we just did it. That's it. That's
when the barbarian goes, I think we're stronger as a team.
Right. He gives everyone kind of like an individual, you know what's so great about you, because they're all at their lowest point. Yes. You know, so this is the like, oh, we just ran into the goblins again. They just beat us again. We couldn't catch them. You know, oh, this is going to ruin everything. Like, what are we going to do? And that's when the like football guy, and that also works too because he's the outsider anyway. So it's like, you know, oh, thank God you were here. And so he's like, guys, come on, we can do this, you know, pull us together. And he gives kind of a football speech, but because he's the bard, it actually has like real magical power, and they all like, you know,
love it.
But also the most important thing is that their minds have now changed. They've now like become heroic, and they've decided to do it. Now, when they go approach the goblins the third time, you know, it's a charm. They all do exactly what they're supposed to be doing. We go and we take out, you know, and capture these goblins. And then, what's his face?
And that's right before a rug pull of them pulling together and being the goblins, and then all of a sudden this massively powerful lich that is levels beyond them. Like,
well, especially too because I had such a hard time handling the goblins. A lich is like a CR 20.
Straight up like, hey, teamwork can solve anything. Bam! Oh no!
Exactly right. I really like that. I'm into it. Okay, man. I mean,
that's solid.
Yeah, aside from literally starting to write like beat by beat dialogue, I think we pretty much.
Which I was kind of like, let's start doing that, man. This is solid, you know.
It's funny because I felt exactly the same way the last time we did this too. I was like, okay, here we go.
Let's start hitting the keyboard. Let's do it.
Sending my treatment off to.
Hi, ABC.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly, 100%. It's like, yeah, who did? It's like who did Once Upon a Time? I'm gonna hit those guys up.
ABC. That was ABC.
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%.
It can be done.
But I mean, unless you guys have anything else, I mean, I feel like that's an episode.
That was great.
I like it, man.
We just wrote an episode, guys.
I think we wrote an episode. Oh yeah, we got to name this thing. What's this called?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see.
You could call it Roll for Initiative.
I love it.
That's good. I love it.
That's awesome.
The title.
That's the title.
Roll for
I was
Initiative.
gonna say you could do like the Mazes and Monsters thing, but that's been done a million times, you know. So
yeah,
Roll for Initiative. I love it. That's great. I'm super into it. Okay, well, awesome, guys. Hey, thanks for watching, and that's a wrap. That's an episode. So we'll catch you guys next time. And in the meantime, Mr. Carey, we got anything to plug, sir?
Nothing to plug on my end. You can just look me up as Carey Duvall. You'll find me on Instagram.
Excellent.
Nice.
And where are we finding you, Josh?
I'm Josh Lindquist. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. J Lindquist BP is my handle. So check me out, and looking forward to putting out more content in the future.
All right, rock and roll. Okay, well, hey, everyone have yourself a wonderful day, and we love you. Harry Potter is better than Star Wars.
Well, why you boring me? I'm right.
A hot take indeed. But as I take you along my scientific journey, I hope to prove to you that the Harry Potter franchise does indeed poop all over Star Wars.
Now this is pod racing.
Join me.
What does thy bidding, my master?